everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Michelle Languages podcast. Today, I would like to talk about what I learned during 2020. So, before deep diving into the language learning stuff that I would like to share with you in this episode, I would like to give you a small background on my 2020. So 2020, was a particular year, the pandemic, the quarantine, we had to stay at home. I couldn't visit my parents that often. All my classes went online, the stuff that we all went through. But in 2020, I actually achieved a couple of goals. I succeeded a little bit, And I felt so happy sometimes during 2020 because I actually managed to graduate from the undergrad, which is Linguistics and Cultural Mediation. Originally, I was meant to graduate in July, and then I had to postpone it to October because of the pandemic situation. And I also managed to pass the entry test for the master degree. So basically, the two most important things that were on my to-do list for 2020 were all completed. I ticked off the boxes from my bullet journal. I don't know. I hope you like this metaphor. Anyway, regarding language learning, 2020 was a not so great year because, to be honest, I didn't set that many goals. The only thing that was in my mind actually was to pass the exams in order to graduate with a decent mark. So I was not really aiming for great marks. I was just hoping to pass them as fast as I could. But the only thing that I really planned, more or less, or at least I had an idea in my mind, was to reach the N3 level. So to start the N3 level in Japanese, which basically happened, but not in the way I wanted, because I feel that I still lack a lot of things in my N4 level Japanese. So I'm working on N3 and at the same time reviewing N4 stuff through Tobira, but I feel that I'm advancing, I'm improving, and this is what really makes me happy, and that's it. So, it was a bittersweet year for many things. But during 2020, there were 5 things that I really learned that really helped me and are helping me nowadays for my language learning journey. So the first one was a very discussed topic, especially during December 2020 and also last month, so January 2021, which is yearly goals. Many other creators share their point of view about yearly goals, and we all actually learned that they really do not work. At least if you plan too much on a yearly basis, it's gonna be really difficult because, as we could see in 2020, everything can change in just a couple of weeks. So many people suggest to divide the year in quarters in order to be more focused, or others in semesters. So basically, I decided to go with different approaches. So for Korean, I think on a 6-month basis, so on semester. And with Japanese, basically, I have no substantial plan. I just go by every day, every week. I plan small goals in order to stay accountable, in order to improve and to motivate myself. Because if I plan too much, especially in terms of time, so if I plan like on a monthly basis, I feel completely overwhelmed. I prefer to plan on a weekly basis for Japanese. Spanish doesn't really need that much planning. It doesn't really need that much planning, especially because I'm just taking weekly conversational classes, and when I can, I read Atomic Habits, but in Spanish, so Hábitos Atómicos, in order to reinforce my B2 level. Nothing more, nothing less. English, I mainly study linguistics, so I just try to keep up with the classes. So yeah, yearly goals are a no thing for me. Were a no thing for many of us actually in the language learning community. This second point can be connected to the first one. So what I would like to suggest you is to do not plan too much in detail for goals, but to focus more on routines. So what I actually do also on a daily basis is to check out my routine. What I was thinking for the week. So I check out, for example, today is Tuesday, and I look at the things that I imagine that I could do, that I can do during a normal Tuesday day. Sorry, I was going to say Thursday, but Tuesday and Thursday are very similar. In Italian, they're completely different, so So, I try to focus more on routines, on building an effective routine. But what I really like about creating routines is that I create routines based on tasks. So what happens? For example, when I have no motivation or I need to study and to focus more on university stuff, I just take away a task. Or when I have free time, I can import more tasks. What really happens with focusing on routines is that you are completely flexible and you have a certain amount of things to do, but you can change them, you can postpone them. So it's like having a vision board and you just move all the things around once you're okay with what you planned. I don't know if it makes sense, but I think that if you use a specific vision, like the ones that Notion allows you to use, it can be really helpful in order to imagine what you can do during a day. And if you cannot do everything that you planned out originally, you can just move the things around. No one is giving you pressure. No one is putting you pressure on this. So yeah, I really suggest you to focus more on routines. And this is what I learned during 2020, because it helps you to set your direction, but it helps you to stay flexible as well. Then, third thing, it's okay to go on hiatus with your main languages. So if you're learning multiple languages, you already know how this works. So you have the main languages, or at least one main target language, and then all the others. And you don't have to feel guilty if sometimes you think that it's okay to go on hiatus with your main target language, because I do it myself. After every Japanese exam I take at university, I always take at least a 1 month hiatus from active studying. So I just heavily rely on watching anime, on music, or reading stuff around the internet, like for example Instagram captions from my favorite Japanese accounts. But I don't have any kind of books. Maybe I revise some stuff, but I don't study, basically. I just immerse myself. And it's okay, because sometimes we need time to reflect on what we did during the year. So it's okay to go on hiatus, and you don't have to feel guilty, okay? Then, this can be directly connected to the fourth point, which is passive learning is more powerful than you think. And it's true, because through passive learning, you actually see, especially when you're watching TV shows or when you're listening to a podcast. So when you hear stuff, especially, but also when you read. But I find this method particularly effective with listening. Through passive learning, you can actually see what you can understand. You actually measure what you're learning, the stage in which you are at the moment with your language learning journey. And it's incredible, because I would like to give you a personal fun fact. My boyfriend actually introduced me to Hunter x Hunter last year, almost 1 year ago. And through Hunter x Hunter, I actually could recognize some different structures that were that were taught to me during the third year of university, which was incredible. And I also recognized Keigo, which was really, really important for my test, both entry test and both the final exam for Japanese. So, passive learning is more powerful than you think because it actually helps you to measure your study level or your level in a language. Hope it makes sense. Then, last but not least, language lettering is a lifesaver and a fun new way to learn languages. I discovered language lettering last November, October, because I was doing research for Japanese books that help you learn Korean in October, and then I actually started learning Korean from this November. So language lettering is a lifesaver, especially if you are planning to learn languages that are similar to each other, like in this case Japanese and Korean, or I can suggest you learning Italian through Spanish, or learning French from Spanish, or Spanish from Portuguese. All of these mixes, if you're planning to learn similar languages, I highly recommend to use language lettering. Obviously, if you already know one language that is similar to your new target language. For example, if you're an intermediate in, Russian, I think that you can take on Polish without many problems, or any other language that is in the, I don't know how to say, Slavic family language? I think so. Because in Italian, we call them lingue slave. And I was not sure about the technical term in English. I hope you can forgive me. Anyway, I would like to thank you for joining me once again into this podcast. I really hope you can forgive me if my English is not perfect, but as you already probably may know, I'm not a native English speaker, so sometimes I stumble, I try to correct myself, and, consider this podcast as if you were chatting with me like I was your friend, or maybe I am your friend. I don't know who you are, my dear listener. So thank you so much, guys, again, and see you next week. Bye!